everyone, it's Luke here from Astro Awakening. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. What I've got for you today is a pre-recorded live breakdown of the Equinox astrology that I did on my Instagram account recently. So what this is on my YouTube account, it's the live recording. So the first sort of 12 minutes or so, I'm talking about some personal changes with the work I do, the hours that I offer, my location change here. So I'm available on the Gold Coast face-to-face or in-person sessions and healings, otherwise all over the world via Zoom. And also a competition that I'm running. If you're on Instagram, it runs out in the next 24 hours. So jump onto that. So if you are just coming here for the astrology, fast forward to around the 12-minute mark. Otherwise, enjoy and thanks for watching. Got some public service announcement, haven't I? And then I'm going to do a little mini equinox reading. I've been looking at the astrology for the spring equinox, which is happening in the wee hours of the morning with the sun's movement into Aries. And what you can do is you can cast a chart for the ingress. It's called an ingress chart when the sun moves into 0 degrees Aries. And that's a birth chart, right? So if we cast a chart for that moment in time when the sun moves into Aries, we've got a birth chart for the new astrological year ahead. So what I've been doing is, thank you very much. I've been just loosely having a look at that. I've already looked at some of the bigger themes that are going on this year, but it's interesting just when you look at the birth chart for the astrological year, and there's a lot of information that I feel it will be very useful. So that's why I'm coming on to say hi and yeah, touch base. Just as I began this, I was sort of saying that happy birthday. I was saying that I'm just giving people out there an alternative to maths because that's what most people are doing, right? I gotta watch maths. Got a commitment ceremony. Yeah. Before I get started, a couple of things. I'm running a competition. Start off the new year with a new comp. And basically, it is a 2-hour session with me. It'll be an online session unless you're on the Gold Coast and you can come here and we can do a face-to-face. But if you're not and you're anywhere around the world, it'll be a 2-hour session, what I call the depth astrology session. So we really dig into your South Node, past life karma that you brought forward into unconscious patterns of behavior. And we really sort of give you some clarity around that. And then we narrow down into, personal clarity and guidance for what's ahead. And I'm going to finish that with a healing. So I'm a Reiki practitioner. I do sort of quantum healing. I'm also trained in the Dolores Cannon technique of QHHT, which is quantum healing hypnosis technique. So over the years, I've sort of refined my own way to tap in and to be able to heal remotely. Or at least heal is probably not the right word, but at least be able to tap in energetically and offer some benefits to the astrology reading, because obviously there's often a lot of stuff that comes up within a personal astrology reading, and I find that the energy healing at the end of it is a really nice accompaniment. On a side note, if you are on the Gold Coast and you want to actually come and meet in person or get an actual, in-person healing session done, then I'm available. And if you're not, and you're in Melbourne, stay tuned because I'll probably be up and down a few times. Got me Ocker bloody hat on, so I gotta get into the cowboy mode. Yes, Jackie, happy birthday, Jackie. Jackie, the creator activator. Birthday tomorrow, I believe. Hey, Pete, how you doing, mate? So there's that. Now, my hours have changed because what I've noticed is, for the last few years, we've been in some pretty intense lockdowns as well as working from home. So I've been, my sessions have been pretty much available for that scenario, which has been fantastic. But most people are moving back and transitioning back to work and working from office again, no longer remote working. So I am changing my hours to suit people that are working the 9 to 5, 5 days a week that can't get you know, time off during the day, or, you know, there's just no session time available. So I'm no longer working Mondays, but I am working Wednesday and Thursday evening until 8 p.m. And I am working Saturdays now, 10 till 4. So if you want to get an out of hours session, check the website. I can't guarantee, but you just go on there, find the session you want to book, and then my schedule will come up, and you can pick from my schedule a time out of hours. So Wednesday, Thursday evenings, and Saturdays. It'll be like that for quite some time, I suspect. So what else? Oh, yeah. My socials, getting pretty social out there. That's what I am. So I'm on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, very modest YouTube channel, although I hit 400 followers today. So that's exciting. What a milestone. And I put long content stuff up on YouTube, a lot of astrology stuff, but also my sort of conspiracy occult background stuff too. I just put a recent one up around Tool, what was it? Tool, the astrology, as well as Star Wars, and just linking a lot of that symbolism together. So if you haven't checked, jump over to my YouTube and do on there. I'm on the tickety-tockety thingy. I got a bit of a prejudice, I got to say, against TikTok, because there's a lot of shit on there that I just go, oh, fuck, you know. I'm not a big fan of the dubbing. I've got to be honest with you, when the dubbing over the, you know, like someone else's voice and then trying to lip sync to it, it sort of irritates me. Maybe I've got some inner child healing to do around that. But anyway, I'm on TikTok. It's another platform, right? It's a platform to be able to spread the work that I do. So if you're on the tickety-tock thing, make sure you get over there and give me a little bit of a thing, or whatever you do. You know what I'm saying? You can tell I'm 43, right? Not up with all this stuff. And Telegram, you know, if you want some alternate media. Trying to post a bit more on there as well. So you can find all the links to all this stuff on my link in my bio. If you go to the link tree in my bio, yeah, that's the one. And just a note on the fake accounts, literally nothing that anyone can do about people creating a fake imposter account, impersonating people, and then trying to scam them. There's nothing you can do to prevent that. As you know, I've actually tried to get verified with Instagram, but they won't verify me for whatever reason. Yeah, Grand Rising, fuck me dead. It's I don't mean to cast judgment on my followers, but like you know, you got to be a little bit like this. If you're following me, you know how I come across, pretty straight. I'm not going to be direct messaging or saying, you know, I come across your profile and felt compelled, spirit compelled me to reach out. Would you like me to consider you for a reading? Or, you know, what was the other one? Grand Rising, or my beloved. These aren't words I use. No. But my partner has been getting requests from them, and we've been having a bit of fun. In actual fact, last night or the night before, she was in conversation with a scammer, and we actually like hit the FaceTime button on the Instagram, and the motherfucker answered. It's like, well, it wouldn't show the face, so it was like just legs down or something. And I'm on there and I'm showing my account open, the actual account, scrolling down, showing the picture, like showing it to the FaceTime, showing all my pictures, and then going, look at this. This is a real motherfucker right here. And then I basically said, like, fuck off. You're scamming my followers and it's not on. You know what he wrote back? He said, send me $150 and I'll leave your account. I was like, fuck, you know. I said, how about I just report you? It's sad. I know these people are, you know, that's the where they get to want to make $1 or something like that. But what is annoying is they prey on the unsuspecting people and vulnerable people. And, you know, and there's a lot of people out there at the moment that are in that state. I get it, because of what's been happening, the torture that's been going on in the collective for the last 2 years. Well, it's been going on for a very long time, but it's really kicked off in the last 2 years. So people are in a pretty vulnerable state. They're easily, I get it, okay, but you just gotta take a little bit of a step back and not react from an emotional state of, oh my God, Luke is following me and he's now talking. I know, I know, pretty fucking cool guy. But you just got to take it a step back and pause and let the emotions weigh. I mean, maybe it's an hour or two to let those emotions really come through, because it's a big deal. I get it. But once you do, use your noggin. Be like, that doesn't sound like the Luke. And you can do some digging without actually committing to some sort of, arrangement with these people. So do a bit of digging, use your discernment, wise up a little bit. As far as what I can do, I can only just report them to Instagram. What else can you do? It's like, fuck, nothing. And even when you confront them actually, personally, in the real, they're still like, oh, can you send me $100 and I'll leave your account? It's like, for fuck's sake. I've had 6, I think, in the last 2 weeks. So if you've been contacted by someone that's pretending to be me and it's not me, I'm back. Sorry. But I will never direct message you and ask you if you want something. I will put shit on my stories and my posts and things, which you have then, free will to decide whether you interact or not. But I'm not going to direct message you and reach out and be like, whatever. So anyway, let's look at the astrology for the equinox, right? As the sun's transition into Aries. Now, how to understand this sort of Aries age of Pisces thing. It's hard. I'm a visual person, so sometimes it's hard for me to explain these types of complex things that I'm about to without showing you and going, see, like this is, because that's how I learn, is I look at things and I can, I'm a much better teacher if I've got a whiteboard. I can be like, see this and draw it and point to it, and so I'll try as best I can to convey across here on this live as to what's going on. So you have the zodiac and you have the constellations or the fixed stars, and there are 2 different things, right? So the zodiac is pinned to the movement of the sun. And when the sun passes from south declination to north declination, or vice versa, right, across the equator, the equatorial sort of belt, when it does that in our autumn, which is what's happening now, at that 0 degrees of Aries, right, it crosses that point and we have the equinox, which is equal day and equal night. Now, in the zodiac, which is different to what's in the sky, the zodiac is pinned to the belt of the movement of the sun, the ecliptic, right? So the sun, the opposite motion of the sun, let's get that word right. Now, at that point, when the sun moves into the first 0 degrees of Aries, if you were to look into the actual fixed constellations, the fixed stars in the sky, the constellation that's in the sky is Pisces. So yes, it's Aries, but it's also Pisces, right? So there's this sort of 2 different perspectives. In Western astrology, we use a tropical zodiac, and we're looking at that zodiac, which is called circle of animals, right? It's a Greek word, zodiac, for circle of animals. And we're superimposing that into the sky based on when the sun is getting to this crossing of this sort of midway point, right? From south declination to north declination, there's this line. If we will put that line out into the sky, we have this sort of equatorial belt. And when the sun makes that point, that's the cardinal point, right? If you've got a cross here, if you were looking at a clock, it's like the 9 o'clock. When it crosses that point in the sky, in the constellations, is Pisces. Hence, we are in the age of Pisces. And what's happening is we're slipping backwards through Pisces, called the precession of the equinoxes, 1 degree every 72 years, roughly. And we're moving backwards, and we're getting towards the end of Pisces, and we're transitioning into the age of Aquarius. Okay, so we're still in the sky as Pisces, but we're towards the end. And from my understanding, especially with Pisces and Virgo constellations, they're pretty much the biggest constellations, the Pisces-Virgo axis in the sky. So there's a large part of the sky where that constellation takes up a lot of it. And there is a crossover between the water bearer, right, known as Aquarius, and Pisces. And there's sort of influence at this crossing over point of the Aquarian energy coming into the Piscean age, which is literally what we're experiencing, is this awakening, this great awakening, but we're still in the age of Pisces, which makes Jupiter the ruler of this age, right? Neptune, Jupiter. I like to use Jupiter. So if we were to take a snapshot of the sky, now coming back to Western astrology, right, which is tropical astrology using the Zodiac. So in other words, tomorrow is the first day of Aries. But if you were using the other system, you would still be a Piscean right now. So there is this 23.5 degree discrepancy between the two systems. So 23.5 degrees backwards. But if we were to take a snapshot of that sky as soon as the sun moves it to the 0 degrees Aries on the Zodiac, we get a chart, right? We can cast a horoscope for that point, also known as a birth chart, right? And what we have when we do that is the birth chart of the next 12 months of this next astrological year. And I've been looking at that because it conveys a lot of the bigger themes that will unfold over the next 12 months. And there's some interesting things that I feel are pretty useful as far as things to be aware of. Now, this isn't about scaring people or panicking people. It's just about bringing a little bit of awareness so that you can be prepared. Awareness is preparedness. What you do with that information, that's up to you. But here's the information. So obviously the sun's at 0 degrees Aries. If we look to the moon, it's at 29 degrees of Libra. So that makes this aspect between the sun and the moon of what's known as an inconjunct, and there's a disconnecting of those energies. You have the sun representing people in positions of authority or power, right? Leaders. This is the sun, especially in Aries, right? The sun in Aries is leadership. And because you have the moon often, especially in mundane astrology, represents the people, the common people, and also the basic needs of the common people. So collectively with the moon at Libra, the basic needs of the people is what? Peace, fucking harmony, peace and harmony. But there's an inconjunct. So there's a relationship between that moon and the sun, and that's an inconjunct. And that aspect, that relationship is one of disconnection. So what we're going to see as a big theme continued on, but probably even more amplified over this next astrological year, is a disconnect between those rulers in positions of authority and power and the basic needs of the collective, right? The basic needs of the common person, the basic needs of the people, which is Libra, which is fucking, how about some peace? The moon also at 29th degree is a pretty ominous position for the moon. The other aspect the moon is making is a square to Pluto. And the basic needs for peace and harmony on a personal level are going to be challenged by some unconscious issues with power and responsibility, right? Where are we empowered in our life, and where are we taking responsibility, and where are we disempowered in life, and where are we giving away responsibility in general? That Pluto is moving now in this astrological year towards, it'll retrograde soon, but it's going to move towards its final degree of Capricorn before it moves into Aquarius. Now, it's not going to be done in Capricorn until 2025 completely, but it's going to be back and forth into Aquarius and Capricorn over the next couple of years. So there's this changing of this energy, this Pluto energy, which is transformation. But what's Pluto been doing in Capricorn over the last, especially for the last 2 years, when it had a conjunction 2 years ago with Saturn, right at the beginning of 2020, you had Pluto, death and rebirth, transformation through crisis, had a conjunction with Saturn, the planet of authority that rules government and structure. So we've been going through this massive, worldwide transformation through crisis, where the government has sought to do what? Well, to take more power, take more control. What is it required on a personal level? It's required a challenge towards our Cancer aspect of ourself, which is where we're dependent or childlike, where we're placing our emotional dependency into, outside sources and becoming dependent on dysfunctional systems of authority, right? Where, it's like the government will look after me. Big government's going to look after me. They're doing the right thing. And that sort of, on a symbolic level, shows a lack of the ability to grow up, mature and start taking a bit more personal responsibility instead of placing that responsibility into the hands of those that, in what have been proven over the last 2 years, to not necessarily have the interests of the people, again, square to the moon here, not necessarily have the interest of the people at heart. In fact, what the governments and media in particular have got is the interests of the people that pay their way, the corporate companies, the elites, the shadow government. They serve that element or aspect. The government and media serve that hidden aspect, right? That Pluto aspect, whilst administering control over people. Whereas for a lot of people in that sort of childlike, immature state of consciousness, still believing that, the government wouldn't do that, very immature state of conscious awareness, they wouldn't have the ability to question that at all. But for us that sort of are a bit more aware and can question things, we're easily looking and going, the government and the media do not have the interest of the people. They're not governing the people for the interest of the people. They're self-governing for the interest of whoever's paying their bills, right? The shadow elite, the shadow government, the shadow corporations, not the will of the people. So, but what we're supposed to think is that, they work for us. Mm-hmm. They control us. That's the job of the government, right? To govern something is to control it or to restrict it. If you put a governor on a car, right, accelerator, if you put a governor on a throttle on a motorbike, you govern it, restricts it. The mente or mental is the mind, to govern the mind. And the media, right, where the media are the script writers, they're the storytellers. So the government and the media work together to do what? Control the people while serving their rulers and the shadow elite or the shadow aspect, right? That's the reality of what's going on. Mercury on this chart is in a conjunction with Jupiter. So we have Jupiter as the ruling god of the age of Pisces, which rules empire, right? The empire, which is, again, if you looked at my last YouTube video, there's a lot of talk I do around Star Wars and the Empire in Star Wars being the dark side. And then you have the Jedi being the light side. So we have Empire. We have Empire still because we're in the age of Pisces. So Mercury, the media, the narrative, the script writer, the storyteller, the messenger of the gods, he's in conjunction with Jupiter, right? The Empire, and in Pisces. So I would say that you're going to get an exaggeration where we're going to get overinflated stories which prey on the emotional vulnerability in people and create a lot of uncertainty, a lot of people like not knowing what the hell is going on, what is real and what isn't anymore. And knowing that that's probably going to be taking place, trying to use the information that's being presented to us to give us some sort of clarity or certainty or grounding is going to be pretty pointless. So if you can't consume the media without being emotionally unstable, then now is the time to just sort of, perhaps govern what you consume, what you allow in, right? If you're there in a state of feeling of emotional overwhelm, vulnerability, uncertainty, helplessness, extreme fear, extreme anger, extreme reaction, and of any nature, emotional reaction in particular, if you're watching what's being presented by the mainstream corporate media government sort of conglomerate, if you're emotionally responding to that, then you need to distance yourself from that. And what you need is to use discernment. You need to be able to rationalize things. You need to be able to disconnect from your emotions and recognize too when you're having an emotional reaction to what's happening, because that's intention, right? They present a narrative in a particular way to solicit the emotional response, because the emotion is the energy. And that is the power that they use to create this matrix reality. It's our emotion, it's our focus, our mental focus, and our emotional reaction, those things in general. Without that, without our emotional response, they don't have power, but they extract that from us by presenting media in a certain way, in a particular story, in a particular way, in a particular light, a very controlled perspective to stimulate an emotional response. Now, they're doing that normally, but with Mercury conjunct Jupiter in Pisces for this ingress chart, it's going to be a year of like, whoa, they're just ratcheting up the emotional triggers. In a personal, for you personally now, if we just, okay, you're able to disconnect and you're not buying anything that's going on and you want to use this astrology for that, well, it's creativity, it's transcending, it's daily meditation practices, it's the dreamscape realm, tapping into that. Maybe it's a good year to start doing some investigation into your dream landscape. We spend a third of our life asleep, so why not discover ways in which you can use the dreams, interpretation of the dreams. Maybe you want to get into lucid dreaming or astral traveling or astral projecting and things like that. So maybe it's a good time to do those things. Inspiration, right? So imagination that can activate inspiration, your ability in these times of uncertainty to have some sort of vision which can act as a guide through the turbulence, right? It's imagine, I've used this analogy a few times, but imagine that you're in the ocean and you're going from your origin to a destination, and whilst you're going, right, you encounter a massive storm. Now, if you weren't clear on where you were going and had a good understanding, or at least a map even, or somewhere where you could say, that's where I'm heading, that's the place I'm going to, then that storm is like, bobbing you around like a cork in the ocean, and you just get flobbed around everywhere. Whereas if you're clear and certain, and you've got the imagination, because the imagination enables us to visualize and embody a state of being that matches a future reality that doesn't yet exist. And what that can do when there's times of uncertainty and there's like an instability and emotional vulnerability in the oceans going like this, is that can be the thing that gets you through. It's like, so this astrology with Mercury, Jupiter, and as well in conjunction to Neptune, can be an opportunity to use your imagination to inspire you to those distant lands or that distant future. It's like, no matter, and the other thing is too, when you're able to transcend a little bit of the physical form and realize that you're a spiritual being having a physical experience, and that, life is but a dream. We're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. Here's time with the weather. That's a line from Bill Hicks, comedian. But point being is that the higher perspective or higher understanding of the transient nature of physical reality is another thing that we can use to sort of get us through times of physical, I don't like the word global, but, worldwide instability. It's like, what? We know where we're going. All this other stuff that's going on, and, this up and the down and the war and all that. It's like, what? We're going there. Like, power to the people, and keep that vision alive. Which, on that note, let's move into the Mars Venus, right? So Mars Venus is in Aquarius, and it's a fight for what you love. And we're able to fight for what we love, or make a stand for what we love, or what we value. And in Aquarius, it's about the collective and humanity and equality and equity between, like, how are we standing up for that? There is a square from Mars and Venus over to Uranus. So we are going to be challenged in that, standing up for what you value and what you love, right? Standing up for your community and those that are like-minded souls, right, is going to be challenged by the Uranus Taurus aspect. And that is some unpredictability, uncertainty, some sudden changes within our things that we have comfort and security, the money, the financial sector. It's like, yeah, we want to fight for what we love and value and for the greater good. but those energies are squaring this Uranus in Taurus, and that is really the unpredictability on the material plane. Now we have the North Node in Taurus, so a lot of our destiny this year is tied into creating stability, right? Trying to create some sort of stability in our life that we can hang on to, that gives us some level of comfort. But we have the eclipses coming through this Taurus energy, as well as Uranus in there. And as we move into May, when we got the solar and lunar eclipses, there's going to be a lot of, I feel, upheaval in those things. And it's really with this ingress chart of Mars and Venus in Aquarius, excuse me, it's a long day. Mars, Venus in Aquarius squaring that, it's like, yeah, we want to fight for the greater good, or the things that we love and value. But it's like, you know, when there's a bit of instability in those things we need for comfort, how does that work out? Which brings me to Saturn. Saturn is, you know, authority. Saturn is the taskmaster, a ruler of, you know, Chronos, time, the timekeeper, as well as the god of karma, authority. It creates challenges that limit and restrict us in order for us to test us. Really, it's a great tester. And Saturn on this ingress chart is in Aquarius, so has a lot to say over this Mars and Venus because it's in rulership, but it's squaring the nodes and moving into this square with the nodes. And, you know, for a lot of us, it is reaping the karmic reward or confronting the karmic challenge of our actions that we have been sowing over the last, especially 2 years, but over the last at least 7 years. So, you know, where have you been putting effort into things? Where are you going to confront where, you know, there needs to be an adjustment to the way in which you handle responsibility in your life? There was something else I wanted to say about that. Maybe also, I think too, with the square to the nodes, with what's going on this year, it'll be a very, I think 2022 will be a very pinnacle point that will be a sort of, are we going backwards or are we going forwards? And some big decisions around, you know, where we personally place responsibility in our life, where we give out responsibility to the powers that be and the powers that be, and then how that is going to shape our past, our future. So it's like with Saturn square the nodes, coming through this eclipse season, coming through the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction shortly as well, there's this sort of karmic aspect moving into what's happening. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, possibly some karmic repercussions for where people have, over the last 2 years in particular, what they've valued, right? What have they valued the most, and what decisions have they made that now they are, the karmic reward or the karmic challenge may present as a direct result to what decisions they've made, and personal decisions and permanent decisions as well, especially over the last 2 years. So you can understand what I'm sort of trying to get to there without saying it in relation to the last 2 years, where people have, what have they valued and how have they made permanent decisions around their life, their work, their health, and how that might now be a place of karmic reward, a karmic challenge as a result. So interesting. We've looked at Jupiter, Neptune. Neptune is pretty much exactly trining the South Node and sextiling the North Node. And excuse me while I just refer to my little notes that I've written here. Yeah. So with Neptune in this position to the South Node, my interpretation is this: it offers an ability to transcend where we have been deeply hurt in the past, or can pull us into an ocean of emotional uncertainty if we are hanging on and identifying with our pain. In other words, it becomes a part of our identity, and we're unable to let go of that. So this is an opportunity, personally, collectively, to look to our past and to be able to recognize that past things that have happened that have created pain, can we let it go? Can we learn our lesson? Can we alter and change our behavior? Can we forget and forgive, or forgive and forget is the word? Can we let go? And Neptune, if we're able to let go, it's the ability to transcend our pain, right? And then we have this beautiful ability to connect more deeply with those things that we love, that we value, that we must have to form a foundation in our life. And a lot of people may be looking for something to hang on to that gives them that firm grip, but their inability to find that foundation or that stability might be directly associated to pain from the past that they just cannot let go. They cannot, for whatever reason, overcome it. They can't forgive. They just, and often that's an over-identification with, you did this to me, or how they couldn't do that. They must pay. And whilst you may be valid and justified in thinking that way, you're going to stay stuck. And when you're stuck in that, you're more likely to be in a place of emotional overwhelm, and more likely to be playing the victim card of, well, it's not my fault, X, Y, Z happened. They did it, she did it, he did it. He shouldn't have said that, he should have did that, and you name it, right? And therefore, the way you're feeling might be very emotionally vulnerable or unstable. And because you're using that as the reason why, it's not your fault, right? And you can stay in that place, and you can stay stuck in that place, or you can transcend. And the transcending process is the ability to transcend that, right? If we want to really start pointing the fingers, like we have done as a species, collectively for a millennia, we've done some horrific things to each other. If we look back into history, we've burnt, robbed, pillaged, murdered, drowned, stabbed, hung, you name it, gone to war and over ridiculous things. And we've done heinous things to each other for a long time. And we all carry that deep wound, right? So the little thing that, again, may have happened, and you may be right, and you may be valid in feeling away that little thing, it's like transcend and look at the really big picture. Look at our ancestors, but look also into your own personal past life experiences. And where have you been, and what have you done, and what have happened to you in the past? And this continual evolutionary process of overcoming that and learning how to move on and let go and forgive. So that's a big part of this next year. And be mindful too where you get stuck, when you get stuck, when certain things may come to light as well with what's been happening, especially in the last 2 years, with certain things that have come to light. We can be like, oh, they did that and they did that. And we can be really like enraged, and it's like, okay, it's not going to change it. And it's not excusing it. It's not saying that it's okay either. But it's also about recognizing that, the part of the reason why a lot of the shit has happened is because we all been asleep. We've all been asleep at the wheel. The thing that I was reflecting on today, about the last year or two especially, and I put some stuff up about how to reflect on that, was how optimistic I am with the direction in which we're all going, and the amount of people. Yes, there's still this matrix, and there's still government overstep, and there's still media propaganda, and there's still all these things, absolutely. But my God, is there a bloody army of us awake now? And we are personally trying to improve ourselves, our life. We're looking, like people are looking for ways to overcome, to empower themselves, to align, to, to be better versions of themselves, to live with more joy in their heart and love, and to be more selfless and compassionate. And, sometimes it takes these types of darkness times for us to collectively wake the fuck up and realize, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And I've seen that happen, especially in the last 2 years personally with the work that I do. And I'm extremely optimistic and I'm very encouraged. Occasionally I'll yell at the TV still. But, like, I had my awakening 2014, 15. I started looking into some deep things around 2012. And it was like, there wasn't the online communities. There wasn't the outside communities growing. There wasn't people questioning. There wasn't this movement that there is. And it's not just a movement. It's the merging of all these movements of people coming together, and power to the people, and the ability for us now that I feel like the awakened or the more self-aware people have the ability to realize that how powerful they can shape the direction in which we're going and lead, right, from that place of open awareness and open consciousness. And that's not to say that there's a hierarchy of better or worse. It's just, I was asleep at one point and now I'm not. It's almost like there is this calling to or a duty to sort of go, you know what, it's time to sort of walk the talk. And on that note, I want to complete tonight with the Sabian symbol for the moon. The Sabian symbol for Aries, it's going to be the sun at the equinox is always going to be at 0 degrees of Aries. But on this chart, I wanted to look at the moon. It's got that, you've got the divine masculine, the divine feminine aspect. And if you don't know what a Sabian symbol is, and you're into astrology and you want to discover a bit more depth to your, understanding and your insight, then look up Sabian, Sabian, Sabian symbols. Dane Aradhya has written a really interesting book back in the 70s, I believe. I haven't got a copy of it. It's like $100 and something for it secondhand. But online you can find access to it. And then also there's a cool site that I just like, his simplistic breakdown of the Sabian symbols, and it's James Burgess so if you type in James Burgess, Burgess on Google, Sabian symbols, and what you can do is, let's say you're into astrology like I am, and for me, I have my sun at 1 degree sort of Virgo, well, I can look up Sabian symbol for that degree. So each degree has a particular symbol associated to it, and it helps us to understand a bit more. And what I got with this, and I really think it's, because you've got that moon as sort of ruling over the common people and the needs of the common people. And the Sabian symbol for where the moon is on this equinox is at a place called 3 mounds of knowledge, or 3 mounds of knowledge on a philosopher's head. So basically it says this: we can see wisdom as both truth and love, which requires a deep understanding of human nature and the context of life experiences, using knowledge as a platform to develop wisdom. And it basically goes on to say that knowledge alone is not enough, right? Knowledge alone is not enough. And what knowledge requires is understanding. And understanding often comes through the experience and the embodiment of living the knowledge, right? So it's like, we've got the knowledge now. We're awakening. The knowledge that they have tried to conceal from us over the last couple of thousand years, if not 20,000 years, of our divine nature, our place within the cosmos, our connection to soul and this consciousness that we share. They've systematically, intentionally concealed that from the people. And a lot of what I feel is the age of Aquarius, this awakening of knowledge, which we're moving into the age of knowledge, is that we're starting to wake up and we're starting to get the actual knowledge. And knowledge is different than information. knowledge resonates, you know, when you hear something, when someone says something or presents something, and it just resonates, because that resonance is that sort of divinity of that knowledge. Now, knowledge on its own, though, is no good. We've got to have this understanding of what that knowledge is about. And the way in which we gain understanding of knowledge is through experience, through actually the doing of it. So I feel like we have the knowledge now. And when I say we, I'm talking to you guys, you know, and this awakening community of humans that are sort of, you know, here to bring about the change, to be the change, right? The rising of the Skywalker, that's the story of us, you know, against what? The existing empire of control. And it's time now in 2022, and now as we transition, as I go to sleep tonight, you can be sort of doing these processes of cleansing and just letting go and in setting an intention. Aries is intention driven. Like, what's your intention is going to drive your direction. It's decisiveness. It's certainty. It's like, you know, that really strong self-commitment, you know. So set your intention tonight and around your own personal take on this, but to live with intent and to live consciously and to live with the application of the knowledge that you've been getting over the last 2 years of, like, you know, how to live in this reality and in a place of acceptance of those for where they're at as well. And that's the other aspect of this story around this Sabian symbol, is that knowledge is applicable to person's life experience and where they're at. So, you know, it's no good trying to go from a very unawakened state and understand the gnosis of such a teacher like Buddha or, you know, Christ or something like that. It's like there is stages to the knowing and the knowledge and the embodiment of it. So where you're at, for where you're at, for with what you can do, start to apply the knowledge you have into your experience, which will create the understanding and embed in you the knowledge. And guess what grows out of that is wisdom. And as we move into the age of Aquarius, right, collectively transition and bring about this shift in collective consciousness, it is the age of wisdom, you know. So hopefully that's been helpful for you guys. And yeah, you know, if you believe, age of Pisces, if you believe what they tell us, knowing now what we know, you're going to live in a reality that is predetermined for you, and it's predetermined by those that wish to have power and control over you and to seek to keep you at a state of unawareness so that you live in that reality. So the awakening is the knowledge of that, and now let's embody it, like really as a collective. Let's embody it. And every conscious act with intention that you make personally ripples through this. It ripples through your family, your community, your friends. It ripples through those people you come into contact with, right? And there's a level of confidence that comes with that. And what it does is it affects that's the secret to, you know, the power that we have that they don't want us knowing, is that we have that power. We have power to shift this reality and shift it rapidly too. So perhaps we might see some of that happening. For more on this, just stay tuned on my page here and my channels and all my social media outlets. If you missed the beginning of this, it'll be uploaded onto my page later today. So yeah, I have got a competition. If you haven't already, you know, if you want to get a 2-hour in-depth session with an actual quantum energy healing / Reiki distance healing as well at the end of it, I've got a competition running for the next couple of days. It's going to be drawn on Tuesday afternoon. So go to my post and you can enter that. And aside from that, thank you. And what a fucking ride. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. I must have had some influencer in either North America somewhere over the last 24, 48 hours share the post I did about, you know, seeing everyone that's endured the shit and like, I see you and you guys rock. And so many people have been commenting me, and I know they're American because, you know, you can see on their Instagram pages, they're all like in American flags or Canadian, and a few of them I'm like, oh, I'm like, well, this is a lot of American people. Anyway, I've been getting so many people going like, when are we having this campfire? When are we having this party? And I'm like, man, I am so ready for that. I'm so ready for just the biggest fucking connection of people, like beyond any sort of music festival or, you know, rave that we could ever organize. Just this biggest like fucking party of, you know, conscious campfires and live music and drumming and just, you know, I don't know about you, but I think about that and I think, yeah, that's the vision that I sort of refer back to that helps me navigate the storm. You know, it's like we're gonna get there. I know it. I feel it in my bones. So yeah, on that note, have a good night. Happy equinox. See you guys.